Imagine a world so hot that the ground will cook you alive in seconds, and a single ice cube is worth more than $1 million. But while everyone is suffering in this 100 Celsius horror, our protagonist is chilling in a cold room with a giant air conditioner and a swimming pool. His ex-girlfriend, the same girl who killed him in his past life, is now crying at his door for a drop of water. But he isn't letting her in. He has enough food to last forever, and he's ready to get his revenge. The world was on fire, quite literally. Volcanic eruptions and earthquakes had become commonplace. Evacuation buses sped down the streets, trying to outrun the disasters. Inside, people crammed together, hoping to reach safety. The man with black hair lamented that recent underwater earthquakes and the eruption of Mount Fuji had already claimed tens of thousands of lives. Now, they were being forced to evacuate as well. He realized he had left in such a hurry that he didn't bring anything and would have to buy supplies in Jiangnan City. On the bus, a man tried to get the attention of the woman next to him, asking if she had heard the news. He explained that the goods in the Walmart and Ali warehouses in Jiangnan City had all been moved. She responded that it was old news. She added that Dongning Lake in Xinjiang had dried up, and the Derundong warehouse was emptied too. The man estimated that the total value of these supplies was probably in the hundreds of billions. Another man declared that it should be in the tens of trillions. He warned that the loss of supplies and various natural disasters were just the surface. He urged everyone to open their eyes and see that the end of the world was coming. The woman with purple hair questioned if the end of the world was really coming and if he was kidding. She said that if it was really the end of the world, she was actually looking forward to it because that's when all living beings are equal. Suchin glared, his expression hardening. Even in the apocalypse, equality was a myth. He knew this from experience, having lived through it all before. A monstrous vision flashed before his eyes. A gaping maw filled with razor-sharp teeth and writhing tentacles. He remembered his past life as an ordinary deliverman when he saw something that made him stammer in shock. What is that? The apocalypse had descended. Due to an abnormal release of solar energy, atmospheric temperatures rose sharply, causing frequent crustal movements. Monsters hidden underground also surfaced, and the whole world changed. This new world, a new order emerged, one where supplies were scarce, and people would fight over even a packet of instant noodles. In this brutal world, a simple ham sausage can cost you everything. He had been reborn from that apocalypse, sent back 1 month before it all began. Another person overheard him and looked concerned. What they just said scared me a bit. Can you? Suchin cut her off dismissively. Sorry, I have more important things to do. Suchin walked with purpose down the street. He knew that in the apocalypse, one thing mattered above all else: supplies. In his last life, he realized he had wasted too much time searching for them. Suchin knew he had to be prepared this time. He apologized for being 21 seconds late, knowing it would cost him half a day's salary. He recalled how the boss had run away when the apocalypse came, leaving him without his annual salary. He decided to consider the supplies in the warehouse as compensation. He smirked, thinking about taking them. Blue energy began to emanate from his feet. Suchin activated his powers, declaring that he would unfold his space. As blue energy emanated from his feet, a system window appeared. It detected rice, cooking oil, and meat, automatically storing them into his space. More supplies were automatically stored away, filling the shelves of his personal dimension. The warehouse's goods vanished one by one, absorbed into Suchin's space. He grinned, feeling the power surge through him. He reveled in his newfound ability, declaring that this was his spatial power. Suchin realized that as long as he used his spatial ability, everything around him could be put into a super-large cubic space with dimensions of 10,000 meters in length, width, and height according to his will. This spatial power provided great convenience for purchasing supplies with $0. Relying on this ability, Suchin could dry up 2 freshwater lakes and plunder several cities destined to be destroyed in the apocalypse. In the apocalypse, even a packet of instant noodles was a luxury, not to mention fresh food. And time here was frozen. Food remained fresh no matter how long it was kept. He was relieved that he wouldn't have to eat dirt in the apocalypse like in his previous life. After collecting so many supplies, the inventory screen showed rice, cooking oil, various fruits and vegetables, mineral water, convenience food, seasonings, alcoholic beverages, and even toilet paper. Suchin could finally breathe in of relief. At this moment another guy called out for help to move the goods, but as the door opened, he thought he must be hallucinating. He stood shocked by the now empty warehouse. The men in vests were furious. They demanded to know where all the supplies had gone. Suchin casually admitted he had taken everything, which only made the situation worse. The men looked at him in disbelief. A strange blue light suddenly appeared on the wall. It was Suchin, testing out his new ability. He explained that this was his second ability, space jump, allowing him to shuttle within a 3-meter space. He knew that in the apocalypse, this ability would be invaluable, allowing him to enter abandoned buildings to find supplies and safely escape, even from mutant beasts. With the warehouse supplies secured, Suchin completed his zero-cost shopping mission. He quickly used his space jump ability to secure the goods. He then received an official alert on his phone. Suchin frowned as he read the message. The official statement is to prevent panic. Do they know the end is coming? Suchin received a call. It was Jiang Shaoqian, and she was furious that Suchin had disappeared and put their house up for sale. She accused him of being naive and shirking his responsibilities as a man. Jiang Shaoqian demanded he transfer the house ownership to her immediately if he ever wanted to marry her. Suchin hung up on Jiang Shaoqian, telling her he was on his way back to Xanadu and they would talk later. He remembered the past 5 years he spent in the apocalypse with Jiang Shaoqian. He had searched everywhere for supplies to feed her, and even brought her into a safe zone. But he was interrupted by another memory. He remembered the man asking why he kept coming back empty-handed and if he was hiding the good stuff. Meanwhile, the man with blonde hair looked down at the woman with light pink hair in the bed, a dead body lying nearby. He told her that the other man was useless now, so the two of them, the woman, with light pink hair, looked up at him, and said not to think that she didn't know what he was thinking. She added that if he died, it was because he was incompetent. The man responded that whether she was incompetent or not depended on her performance tonight. Suchin was filled with regret, realizing he had entrusted his trust and back to such a person in his last life. This time, Suchin vowed Wang Haoyu and Jiang Shaoqian would pay the price for their betrayal. They wouldn't die easily. He wanted them to experience the pain he had suffered 1,000 times over. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. The remaining supplies could only be bought with money, and he needed to figure out how to get it. He decided to call Manager Lu. Suchin called Manager Lu, willing to sell his house at half price. But he had one condition: he wanted cash, and he wanted it now. His expression was intense, knowing time was running out. Soon, he arrived at Dream Real Estate. As Suchin exited Dream Real Estate, a woman with light pink hair confronted him. Suchin, do you know how long I've been waiting? Suchin ignored her, brushing past her. Move aside. Suddenly, a man with brown hair wielding a baseball bat appeared, his face contorted with rage. He demanded to know who authorized the sale of the house, threatening Suchin's safety. Just then, Suchin's hand glowed with a blue energy, ready to strike. Suchin grabbed the man with brown hair by the neck, his fingers crackling with blue energy. Suchin tightened his grip, declaring that the man could handle his stuff however he wanted. The man with brown hair crashed to the ground, defeated. The man with brown hair was defeated, but the situation was far from over. Jiang Shaoqian screamed, demanding to be released and calling for help. He hurled Jiang Shaoqian away with brutal force. Jiang Shaoqian sat stunned, trying to process what just happened. The man with brown hair struggled to breathe, begging to be released from whatever hold Suchin had on him. Suchin stared down at the man with brown hair, a cruel smirk forming on his face. Don't worry, you won't die too quickly. The man with brown hair gasped for air, desperately trying to break free from Suchin's hold, but it was no use. Just then, Jiang Shaoqian, with her light pink hair, appeared, calling out to the man with brown hair, whose name she revealed to be Wang Haoyu. Jiang Shaoqian glared at Suchin, her face contorted with rage. Suchin, while I'm not angry yet, kneel down and apologize quickly. Otherwise, you can forget about marrying me in this lifetime. Suchin glanced back, hearing Wang Haoyu's shocked exclamation. Wang Haoyu, scrambling to his feet, shouted after him, promising revenge as he and Jiang Shaoqian retreated. Back inside, a man nervously offered Suchin a glass of water. The man in the suit smiled ingratiatingly, offering to buy Suchin's house at a good price. The man smirked, seeing an opportunity to exploit Suchin's situation. He thought to himself that buying the house for 700,000 was a steal. Suchin agreed to the deal, but insisted on full payment immediately. The man in the suit was happy to oblige, eager to finalize the contract and transfer the funds. The contract signed, Suchin thought to himself that the buyer could choose any house he wanted, as long as he dared to live in it. The bank notification confirmed the transfer of 700,000 yuan to Suchin's account. Despite the increasing frequency of disasters, Xanadu, being inland, remained relatively unaffected. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions seemed a world away. Coupled with official reassurances, life continued in an orderly fashion. Suchin noticed a poster advertising fast loans. He paused, considering the possibility of a high-interest loan. Suchin decided to call the number. He inquired whether he could mortgage his property using the property certificate. Suchin arrived at the offices of Great Sea Loans Limited Company. Sign greeted him with a blunt assessment of his property's value. Not much. Suchin asked how much he could borrow. The man with blonde hair smoking a cigarette sized up Suchin. He offered a loan of 500,000, but demanded the property certificate as collateral. Suchin, desperate for funds, promised an extra 100,000, begging for the loan. He assured the loan officer he'd repay everything within a week. The loan officer, seeing Su Chen's desperation, recognized him as a gambler willing to sell anything for a profit. He smirked, knowing that as long as the property certificate was mortgaged, everything else was negotiable. Bank transfer notification confirmed the loan of 600,000 yuan. Jiang Shaoqian, standing near a taxi, raged on the phone about Su Chen daring to fight back. She vowed revenge, promising to make him pay the price with the help of her big brother. A woman with split pink hair noticed a familiar figure walking away. Xiaoyu, look at that person, is it Su Chen? The man with brown hair confirmed her suspicion. Yeah, it really is this guy. What is he doing here? Let's go, follow him, see what this guy has been up to these days. Su Chen recalled that many commercial buildings collapsed during the apocalypse due to seawater backflow and rapid freezing. But the Green City Hotel withstood various natural disasters until the end. He remembered hearing that the presidential suite inside was well equipped, even boasting a swimming pool. He thought it might be a good idea to use this place as a base, deciding that living here for a long time wouldn't be bad. Despite the widespread emptying of warehouses, Su Chen knew his spatial storage was more than sufficient to provide hot meals and essential ingredients. Suddenly, a woman with short black hair approached him. Hello, I'm the hotel restaurant manager, Lu Xinrui. How can I assist you? Su Chen made an unexpected request. Hello, I want to order 1,000 tables for a banquet. Can you do that? Lu Xinrui was taken aback. 1,000 tables? Lu Xinrui quickly recovered her composure, listing the various options. Yes, we have 5,000 per table, 10,000 per table, and even 30,000 and 100,000. She thought to herself that this young man with such a grand demeanor must be a hidden second-generation rich kid. Su Chen decided to proceed with the banquet. He stated that he would pay 10,000 per table, totaling 10 million, and offered a 50,000 deposit, requesting delivery to his specified address with the balance settled a week later. He asked if the Green City Hotel met such high standards. Lu Xinrui agreed to the deposit. She thought to herself that the cost of ingredients alone would be 50,000, but the opportunity to connect with wealthy individuals made it worthwhile. She reminded herself that the most important thing in business was to be adaptable. She then asked how she should address him, and Su Chen replied with his name. Lu Xinrui, curious about the large order, inquired whether Mr. Su was getting married. Su Chen confirmed that the banquet was for his wedding. He also requested a presidential suite. The hotel lobby bustled with activity. Lu Xinrui was thrilled about the massive order and the deposit she received. She mused that in the coming post-apocalyptic world, a block of ice would be worth billions. She thought to herself that booking the presidential suite was for the honeymoon, and whoever married him would be incredibly fortunate. Jiang Shaoqian, accompanied by a man with brown hair, approached the hotel employee, demanding to know what Su Chen was doing there. Jiang Shaoqian declared that Su Chen was her boyfriend. The employee revealed that Su Chen had just booked a banquet for 1,000 tables and paid a 50,000 deposit, calling Jiang Shaoqian fortunate to have such a boyfriend. Jiang Shaoqian was in disbelief, questioning whether Su Chen had the money to order a 10 million banquet. The hotel employee smirked, explaining that wealthy people often hide their wealth to test their partners, only revealing it on the wedding day. Jiang Shaoqian, her face a mask of confusion, wondered if Su Chen would suddenly disappear and resort to cold violence. She couldn't believe that bootlicker Su Chen could actually be wealthy. The hotel employee confirmed that Su Chen had just transferred 50,000 as a deposit. Jiang Shaoqian's companion was stunned. He asked who exactly Su Chen had invited to a 1,000-table banquet at a 5-star hotel. Jiang Shaoqian realized that Su Chen's plan was to introduce her to his wealthy circle, and then reveal her true identity. She declared that she needed to take the initiative and create opportunities for this bootlicker. Jiang Shaoqian imagined herself sitting on a golden throne, waited on by servants. Jiang Shaoqian was stunned. She had never imagined such a scenario in her life, especially with Su Chen. Su Chen realized that selling the house, taking out a high-interest loan, and booking the banquet had drained his resources. Even with only the deposit paid, the remaining 600,000 yuan wasn't much. He smirked, deciding that taking out an online loan would be the only option at this point. Su Chen then downloaded over 80 apps at once, snapping selfies and shaking his head left and right as he applied for loans ranging from 30,000 to 30 yuan. He sighed in relief as he got the notification. He had finally managed to secure 970,000 yuan in loans. However, Su Chen realized there was no time to waste. He still had many things to buy. Fireplaces, ice makers, ice blocks, smokeless coal. These weren't available in supermarkets. But fortunately, he could buy them online, and delivery was fast. After the extreme heat and severe cold, whether he could get through it or not depended on whether he had enough of these two. Su Chen asked about the current rate of smokeless coal. He needed 2,000 tons of smokeless coal. The price was okay, and he'd pay a deposit of 500,000 yuan first, with the remaining amount to be paid after receiving the goods. Suchin made a call to an ice factory, arranging a face-to-face discussion to order ice blocks. As Suchin walked down the street, a woman with short dark hair spotted him and called out his name. The woman with short dark hair introduced her friend, the woman with light pink hair, as Jiang Shaoqian. She claimed Jiang Shaoqian had been missing him. Suchin's expression hardened as he thought about how Jiang Shaoqian had taken his house. Missing me? Missing me for what? My house, he wondered. The woman with short dark hair tried to smooth things over, claiming Jiang Shaoqian was just testing him and questioning why he was so clueless. Jiang Shaoqian, looking unwell, asked Suchin to accompany her for a walk, apologizing for scolding him the previous day and hoping he wasn't angry with her. Suchin coldly told her he had something to do, and she should stroll by herself. The woman with short dark hair commented on Suchin's arrogance, as they watched him hail a taxi. The woman with short blue hair urged the driver to follow Suchin, claiming it was the final test. Suchin arrived at the Manhwa ice factory, ready to secure a vital resource for the coming apocalypse. A man in a suit greeted him warmly. You must be Mr. Su. Oh my, you're really young. Mr. Wu, the details have been discussed over the phone. How long will it take to produce 2,000 tons of edible ice? The man boasted about his factory's efficiency. In our ice factory, we don't boast about anything else, but when it comes to efficiency, we are definitely the best. 3 days. 2,000 tons of edible ice in just 3 days. It will cost 400 yuan per ton, totaling 800,000 yuan. Man in the suit confirmed that he would transfer 100,000 yuan as a deposit and deliver the ice to the given address in 3 days. The payment went through, and the man wondered why Suchin needed so much ice, suggesting they could cooperate again in the future with negotiable prices. Suchin replied that he planned to donate it to a lasan for charity, which surprised the man. The man in the suit watched Suchin leave, impressed that a 800,000 yuan deal had been settled so quickly with such a young man. Just then, the man with the mustache noticed someone else had arrived, wondering if they had an appointment. Jiang Shaoqian, with her light pink hair, stepped forward, declaring that Suchin was her fiancé and demanding to know what they were discussing. The man with the mustache was taken aback by her claim. He explained that Suchin had just ordered 800,000 yuan worth of ice. The revelation hit them hard. It was confirmed. Suchin was a super-rich second-generation heir. The woman with short, dark blue hair pressed for more information, asking if Suchin had revealed his plans for the massive ice order. The man with the mustache explained that Suchin claimed he was donating it to a lasan for charity. Yang Shaoqian and the woman with short dark blue hair looked at each other in disbelief. With his preparations complete, Suchin was ready to enjoy his time before the apocalypse. Suchin entered the high-end restaurant, reflecting on how luxuries like this had been out of reach in his past life. The staff greeted him warmly. He glanced over the menu, noting the high prices. He wondered about the question-mark dish selling for 17,000 yuan. The waitress explained that the dish was personally crafted by the head chef of the Yalan Music Restaurant, with the specifics depending on the chef's inspiration. Suchin found it interesting and decided to order it. Suchin recalled that in his past life, a strange force at the beginning of the apocalypse had caused many creatures to mutate. Suchin considered the monstrous serpent mentioned in ancient texts, noting its resemblance to the mutated serpent he had encountered in his previous life. He thought that atavism was a more accurate term than mutation. A woman with bright pink hair approached, carrying a dish. She greeted Suchin, introducing herself as the head chef of Yalan Music Restaurant. She explained that the dish was specially tailored to his temperament. Suchin's eyes widened in recognition. The woman with striking pink hair was none other than Hell's chef, Duanya. Suchin remembered that in his past life, Hell's chef possessed a magical culinary skill to turn decay into food, a temptation no one could resist. But those dishes were made using the mutation source from within the monstrous beasts, and eating them would lead to certain death. Duanya asked what was with his expression, wondering if he was afraid that such a beauty would poison the food. She explained that the dish was called dual-faced life, a kind of steak with 2 different flavors. Suchin admitted the 17,000 yuan was worth it. He briefly wondered if she could cook for him in the apocalypse, but quickly dismissed the thought, suspecting she might poison the food. The woman with light pink hair, Jiang Shaoqian, assured her friend she would become a rich wife and not forget her sisters. Meanwhile, Suchin found himself in front of a bar, the Golden Sales Vault of Xanadu. He had heard that some rich kid spent 2 million there, and didn't even get to see what abalone looked like. Suchin regretted not entering such a place in his last life, knowing that in the apocalypse, there wouldn't be such extravagance. Inside the bar, Suchin was immediately surrounded by women. One of them approached him, offering a drink. "Hey handsome, why aren't you drinking?" "Sure, cheers. Sis, I'll drink with you." Suchin took a sip, observing the scene. The woman with dark hair explained that her friend Yunyun was there for the first time because her boyfriend cheated on her. They wanted her to have some fun. The woman continued, saying that the scumbag didn't even sleep with her and cheated with an old woman. She asked if men were really only concerned about sleeping with women, stating that a real man's nature is engraved in his bones with reproductive desires. The woman with short dark hair, emboldened by the alcohol, leaned in close to Suchin. "Hey handsome, are you single?" She snuggled closer, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Then are you willing?" Her friends cheered her on, egging her on to forget her heartbreak. Suddenly, two women pushed through the crowd, their expressions thunderous. "Suchin, what are you doing? Is he cheating?" The woman with short dark hair, emboldened by the alcohol, declared Suchin was manly and suggested they go outside. She then grabbed his hand, suggesting they go upstairs. Just then, Jiang Shaoqian and another woman appeared, blocking their path. "Suchin, stop!" she shouted. Ignoring the interruption, the woman in the black dress opened a nearby door and pulled Suchin inside. Inside the room, the woman in the black dress leaned heavily on Suchin, slurring her words. She confessed it was her first time, her words barely audible. Suchin tried to rouse her, asking if she was drunk. He advised her to stay home and stock up on food, aware of the impending disaster. Suchin swiped the card to unlock the door, thinking that love-brained people shouldn't come to places like this. He stepped out, acknowledging that such an opportunity was rare, but ultimately a waste. Suddenly, Jiang Xiuqian's voice echoed down the hallway, accusing Suchin of mistreating her and acknowledging that with her and another woman around, any chance for the night was gone. Back at the warehouse, Suchin directed the workers, instructing them to place the 20 large fireplaces and ice makers in the innermost part, ensuring they didn't block the entrance. He told them to keep moving the ice blocks. Meanwhile, Jiang Shaoqian overheard someone mentioning that Suchin had rented a large warehouse in the suburbs and was filling it with large machines. She wondered what he was up to. The woman with short dark hair pointed out that the banquet setup was from the Green City Hotel. The woman speculated that Suchin might suddenly propose, with guests arriving from all directions. Jiang Shaoqian scoffed, declaring that even if Suchin proposed, she might not accept. She told Li not to accompany her, wanting to see his sincerity. Just then, Jiang Shaoqian confronted Suchin, demanding to know why he was buying so many things and what was going on. Suchin asked if she could help him move things, promising to explain everything afterward. Jiang Shaoqian refused, scoffing at the suggestion. She reminded him that she was about to become a rich lady and couldn't possibly do such rough work. Jiang Shaoqian scoffed, declaring that this must be a test to see if she qualifies to become a rich lady. She insisted that she wasn't a delicate woman. To become a rich lady, she thought, one must be well-rounded, and as long as she could withstand this test, Suchin would definitely marry her today. The woman with dark hair, looking at Suchin, offered to help too. Suchin smirked, thinking that he couldn't let the free labor go to waste. He needed 1,000 tables of food and 2,000 tons of ice. Even with help from the hotel and suppliers, moving everything would take a long time. Finally, the moving was finished. Jiang Shaoqian, exhausted from the work, complained about Suchin. She thought to herself that if she became a rich lady, she'd definitely make all his money hers. Another woman, kneeling on the ground, was furious that Suchin made them move such heavy things. She pointed out that the ice blocks weighed over 100 pounds each. Jiang Shaoqian was growing impatient, wondering if Suchin would announce her as the bride and if the wealthy guests would finally arrive. Meanwhile, another woman looked exhausted, noting that the food was getting cold and the guests didn't seem to mind. Suchin thanked everyone for their hard work and handed out red envelopes as a token of appreciation, promising to settle the remaining funds within a week. The delivery drivers were thrilled, noting that the envelopes were thick with at least 10,000 yuan. Jiang Shaoqian confronted Suchin, asking if he had anything else to tell her. Suchin turned to her and thanked her for helping with the work, then told her there would be no pay and she could leave. Jiang Shaoqian was in disbelief, refusing to believe Suchin was dumping her. She insisted it was all a joke and that the guests would arrive any minute, ready for their wedding and a good life together. Suchin responded, his voice laced with regret. He revealed that he had not only sold the house but also accumulated a mountain of debt. He asked if she would still be willing to be with him under those circumstances. Jiang Xiuqian's face twisted in disbelief. She pointed out the extravagant banquet costing over 10 million, the tens of thousands spent at the restaurant, and all the other expenses. How could he possibly be broke? Suchin casually explained that a generous big boss wanted to do a good deed, so he helped them out by bringing people to the Alas Han Poverty Alleviation Project. Jiang Xiuqian's face contorted as she began to understand the situation. So, he was saying, she exploded in fury, accusing Suchin of lying to her the entire time. She demanded to know what he had lied about. Jiang Shaoqian screamed that he wasn't a second-generation rich guy at all, and she could forget about marrying him. Suchin retorted that he didn't care about a gold digger like her. Jiang Shaoqian, enraged by Suchin's rejection, screamed that he would regret this. Suchin watched her leave, scoffing at her threats. He knew that when the apocalypse arrived, she would be the one regretting her actions. He secured the entrance to his warehouse. With a satisfied look, Suchin surveyed his preparations. He knew he had everything he needed. Now, he just had to wait for the apocalypse to descend. Suchin focused his mind. Infinite storage. Open! Night fell on the warehouse district. The moon hung high in the sky, casting long shadows. Elsewhere, the lights of the Luching Hotel glowed in the darkness. Large man, confident in his influence, promised Jiang Shaoqian a good life with Xiaoyu. He demeaned Suchin, suggesting she should have left him long ago. Jiang Shaoqian gave a knowing look, anticipating something. The man beside her seemed pleased with himself. The man reassured Jiang Shaoqian that his big brother would take care of Suchin and get revenge for her. He added that Wang Haoyu was a better choice than a bootlicker. Jiang Shaoqian looked surprised, calling out to Suchin, who was sitting nearby eating. "What are you doing here?" she asked. The man with orange hair pointed an accusing finger at Suchin, shouting that he had been attacked earlier. Suchin, fork in hand, looked up as the large man sneered, calling him a punk. The large man admitted he had been planning to find Suchin, angered that he dared to touch his little brother. He asked the larger man if he knew Suchin. The large man revealed that Suchin had mortgaged his house to him for 600,000, and tomorrow was the repayment day. He grinned, declaring that they could settle old and new scores together. The woman with light pink hair commented that Suchin dared to borrow money from Brother Hai, and she was glad she didn't get involved with him. Meanwhile, Suchin wiped his face with a napkin, sighing that he couldn't even enjoy a good meal. The man with a cigarette confronted Suchin, reminding him that he had to repay the money by tomorrow and asking if he looked like a joke to him. The large man declared that Suchin wouldn't be able to get anything and told the big brother not to waste time with him. He demanded they finish Suchin for daring to lay hands on him. A woman stepped in, trying to defuse the situation and suggesting they talk it out. The large man sneered, insisting that Suchin kneel and apologize to him and his brother if he wanted the matter settled. Jiang Shaoqian looked on. The woman with black hair turned to Suchin, asking what was going on. Suchin waved it off, saying they were just a few pests. The large man slammed his fist on the table, declaring that Suchin was finished and that even the heavens couldn't help him now. Just then, a man's voice cut through the tension. He demanded to know what was going on. He stepped forward, his gaze intense. He asked who authorized them to cause trouble there. The large man's eyes widened in disbelief as Suchin called out a name, Gao Chang. Gao Chang chuckled nervously, addressing Suchin as Brother Chang. He claimed to have important business and warned Suchin not to interfere. Gao Chang was a well-known entrepreneur in Xanadu, but he also had a wide network in the underworld. People under his command made it unwise to be on his bad side. He was given a respectful send-off. In his past life, Gao Chang was a major force in Xanadu, even having the Hell Chef under his wing. Suchin recalled that after the apocalypse, the Green City Hotel was the first place to experience atavistic mutations. It seemed Gao Chang's ability to become a skull crusher was due to the early appearance of atavistic mutations there. Suchin realized that Gao Chang's opportunity was now his. The man scrutinized Suchin with a calculating gaze. This kid has an interesting glare, he thought to himself. A man with slicked back hair announced he had brought Miss Duanya as requested. Duanya wondered what Mr. Sun wanted to discuss with her. Mr. Sun, a burly man with a thin mustache, chuckled, admitting he'd heard about Miss Duan's beauty and was finally meeting her in person. He offered her a drink. Duanya stared at the wine with a look of shock. Wine swirled in the glass. Suchin stood by the window, gazing at the city lights. He remembered hiding with Jiang Shaoqian in the basement during the extreme heat apocalypse in his previous life. He never expected that this time, after ditching her, she would end up following him here. He smirked, seeing this as a golden opportunity to settle old scores with her. Two men stood by the pool, discussing the unusual heat. One of them suggested going to the pool to cool down, anticipating girls in swimsuits later. The other man chuckled, finding the idea amusing. He complimented the first man's cleverness. Meanwhile, Jiang Shaoqian, with her light pink hair, stood with another woman, gazing at the moon. She remarked on how bright the moon was, comparing it to the sun. Just then, Jiang Shaoqian's companion grabbed her hand, pointing at something in the sky. The night sky seemed to echo with declarations of love. Jiang Shaoqian, with her light pink hair, stood with a man who was already feeling the heat, begging her to take him to the pool. Meanwhile, Suchin, watching the moon, seemed to be waiting for something to happen. The apocalypse was about to begin. The sky began to rumble. Rumbling grew louder as the sky turned a terrifying shade of red. Meanwhile, at the pool, Jiang Shaoqian and her companion were enjoying themselves. Suddenly, the moonlight began to burn their skin. Why does the moonlight suddenly feel so hot? Wait for me. Ouch. 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 My skin burns. Jiang Shaoqian's companion urged them to get back to the hotel, worried about Brother Hai and the others. Back at the pool, The people who were enjoying themselves moments before were now running for their lives, desperately trying to escape the burning moonlight. People watched in disbelief as the skin of those in the pool turned red. The burning sensation intensified. They screamed for water, their skin blistering under the strange, intense light. The survivors scrambled for any source of water they could find. Jiang Shaoqian and the others fought each other to get to the water, believing it would save them. Meanwhile, two men searched for Brother Hai, wondering where he was. A man with severe burns reached out, pleading for help. The man with severe burns was being tended to by other men, who desperately called for burn cream. One of them cursed Xiaoyu. Meanwhile, one of the men noticed the woman with pink hair and asked why Miss Duan wasn't drinking. Another man offered Mr. Sun a banquet he had prepared. The heavy-set man declared that nobody in Xanadu would dare refuse his wine. He told Xiao Gao that it was none of his business. The heavy-set man cursed Gao Chang for trying to climb up to Sun Debiao, believing he had been set up. The woman with pink hair looked on. The woman with pink hair, Duanya, realized that Sun Debiao, who thinks he's invincible in Xanadu, had targeted her. She suspected something was wrong with the drink and knew she couldn't drink it, but she wondered what to do. Suddenly, the room was filled with blinding light, and the men around her screamed in agony, clutching their eyes. Someone shouted to close the curtains as the room became unbearably hot. The man with the receding hairline contacted Minister Zhao, requesting a pickup from the Green City Hotel. He seemed to understand the situation, however. He relayed that Mr. Zhao was working to prevent power outages but was too busy to send anyone over. Things were proving to be difficult. An injured man sat on the floor, complaining about the rough treatment. He insisted that Brother Hai needed to go to the hospital, but the heat outside posed a problem. Another man, sweating profusely, assured them that Xiao Dao would come to pick them up. The driver assured Brother Hai that he was in the underground garage, but he noted that it seemed unusually hot. He told them to wait, he was coming. The driver wondered why it was daytime already, and he noticed the temperature seemed off. The van sped down the road, the world outside bathed in an unnatural, scorching light. The driver was shocked to see all four tires had blown out, wondering what kind of crazy weather could cause such a thing. He called Brother Hai, explaining that he couldn't get through and needed to turn back. Brother Hai told him to figure it out himself. The driver lost his footing and fell to the ground, the intense heat becoming unbearable. As the driver fell, a horrific sight met his eyes. The man with blonde hair cursed, seeing the state of the world on his phone. A group of people stared at a phone screen in disbelief, witnessing the unfolding chaos. Meanwhile, inside a luxurious room, the air conditioner struggled to maintain a cool temperature against the rising heat outside. As the world outside descended into chaos, Su Chen remained asleep, oblivious to the impending doom. The world outside was becoming increasingly hostile, with temperatures soaring to unbearable levels. The city power center issued a warning about the sudden release of intense heat from the moon, reporting nearly 100 casualties already. The intense heat caused widespread destruction, with electrical explosions erupting across the city. Inside the Green City Hotel, a large man with dark hair received bad news. The number he dialed was unreachable. Xiao Dao is no more, he exclaimed. He was informed that all other rooms were fully booked, forcing him to share. One of the women protested, demanding a separate room. What kind of joke is this? How can I share a room with a man? The lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. The large man cursed, demanding to know why there was no electricity. The air conditioning had failed, and the temperature was rising rapidly. Another man started stripping off his shirt, complaining that they'd suffocate in the heat, and they needed to figure something out. Jiang Shaoqian remembered that Su Chen's presidential suite had a pool and suggested they take it over. The city's electricity grid had hidden dangers due to improper maintenance. No matter how much manpower was invested, the city's electricity still exploded, affecting all users connected to it. The man with black hair emerged from the pool, toweling himself off. He explained that he specifically chose a room with a pool. He had also prepared vertical air conditioners and large backup batteries to ensure the room temperature remained comfortable. He added that they should put in some ice as well. He sat back on the couch, taking a sip of his drink. It was much better. He paused, considering something. He was hungry. The man with black hair prepared a feast. On the first day of the apocalypse, let's just have a simple breakfast, he thought. Su Chen brought the food to his mouth, but he was already planning his next move. I wonder when Chang's opportunity will show up. Suddenly, someone began banging on the door. Su Chen, open the door. I know you're inside. The man with red skin burst into the room and immediately noticed the temperature. It's so cool in here. What's this? Air conditioning. The man with black hair stood in the doorway, looking out at the crowd. Do you guys need something? He asked. One of the men noticed the air conditioners inside. Ice. Big bro, there's ice. This room not only has a pool but also electricity and food. A woman with light pink hair, parted bangs, and a black top stepped forward, leading the charge. Su Chen, we're all about to roast outside, And here you are enjoying the luxury? That's right. You're being too selfish. Get out of this room now. Step aside on your own, don't force us to act. A large man with a menacing look stepped up. Young man, you borrowed money from me. It's time to pay it back. Give up the room to me. Consider it as the interest for these days. One of the men stomped his foot, threatening to throw Suchin out. Suchin didn't hesitate. He fired a shot directly into the large man's stomach. The large man's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared down at the smoking hole in his gut. Suchin aimed his gun at the crowd. Take one more step forward, and you're dead. The crowd was stunned. They couldn't believe Suchin had a gun. The large man who had been threatening him realized he might have made a mistake. Suchin, you even managed to get a gun. Alright, you're tough, I give up. Jiang Shaoqian and the man with the bowl-cut hairstyle looked on in fear, realizing the situation had turned against them. Suchin fired again, this time hitting the large man in the leg. He screamed in agony as Jiang Shaoqian and the other man scrambled to escape. Suchin watched as the others fled. Get lost. Why are you wasting time? Do you want to die? Suchin gave them a final warning. Now I'll count to 3, and you better disappear from my sight. 1, 2. Meanwhile, at the Green City Hotel, a tattooed man berated the staff. What? How can your hotel have no food? Hotel worker explained that they were running low on supplies. A few days ago, someone booked 1,000 tables for a banquet, and we've almost run out of ingredients. The deliveries were scheduled for today. The tattooed man didn't care about their excuses. He demanded that they bring him all the food and water they had. The tattooed man's arrogance sparked outrage among the crowd. They accused him of hoarding water and food, denying them a chance to survive. Suddenly, chaos erupted as someone cried out that Suchin was killing people. A man lay on the ground, bleeding from what appeared to be a gunshot wound, confirming that someone powerful was living upstairs. Jiang Xiuqian's voice cut through the noise, claiming that Suchin's room had electricity, air conditioning, and even a swimming pool. Others pressed her for the truth. Jiang Shaoqian insisted she had seen it with her own eyes. Ice cubes, food, fried chicken, and alcohol. A vision of paradise. The tattooed man's words ignited the crowd's envy. They were sweating in the oppressive heat, while Suchin lived in luxury. Suddenly, a voice echoed from behind the door. The crowd pleaded with Suchin to let them in, promising to respect their elders and care for the young if he shared his air conditioning. Their demands were interrupted by a child's desperate cry for fried chicken. Suddenly, the child went flying, sent airborne by a swift kick. The mother screamed, seeing her child launched across the room. Suchin stood his ground, unimpressed by the commotion. Control your kids. Otherwise, I don't mind helping you manage them. The crowd erupted in outrage. But he's just a kid. How could you even think of hitting him? He's a murderer. Someone like him doesn't deserve to stay in this room. Kick him out. The crowd surged forward, seeing their chance. He's alone. Everyone charge. Go in. One of the attackers, bloodied but undeterred, advanced. Suchin lay on the ground, seemingly defeated, as his attackers loomed over him. But Suchin wasn't finished yet. He leveled a pistol at the incoming mob. I may be alone, but you only have one life. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mom told me I should stop reading and doing these recaps and that it was a waste of time. But I know you guys are different. If you like these recaps, please subscribe and let's prove her wrong. The crowd turned on each other, demanding answers. They wanted to know why they left their big brother outside to die. One of the men screamed that it was all Suchin's fault. From behind the door, a woman's voice pleaded with Suchin, claiming he didn't really want to hurt them and that he was just trying to scare Wang Dehai. She asked if he'd forgotten how much she loved him. Another woman begged to be let in, promising to do anything he wanted. She offered to cool off with him and Jiang Shaoqian. Suchin smirked, sensing their desperation. Sisterly love sure runs deep. Then come in. Jiang Shaoqian, alongside another woman, seized the opportunity, hoping to play on Suchin's emotions. Really? I knew you wouldn't abandon me. Brother Chin, you're such a good person. But their hopes were quickly dashed as a man with brown hair, fueled by rage, tried to force his way through, held back by the two women. Get the hell out of the way. I'm going to kill him. Suchin's expression hardened, his eyes cold and resolute. But whoever walks through this door will die. Suchin didn't hesitate, bringing his weapon down with devastating force. He surveyed the terrified faces. Anyone else? Those who hesitated were quickly pushed aside by the others. Suchin's expression hardened. Then get lost. He watched as the last few scrambled away. One man called back. Wait for me, Shaoqian. Suchin leveled his weapon. Not leaving might just get you killed. Just then, a vehicle rumbled into view, its tires modified with heavy treads. The crowd erupted in cheers, recognizing it as a rescue team vehicle. Hope soared as people stepped back, clearing a path. One man, desperate for help, called out, asking if Academician Lu Jinghua was present. The man stepped forward, confirming he was the one they sought. The rescue team urged him to don an insulated suit and leave immediately. Panic flared as others protested, demanding to know if they were only rescuing him. A member of the rescue team tried to calm the crowd, explaining that the authorities had launched a larger rescue operation. He told them to make their way to Silicon Valley Plaza, the nearest rescue point, by midnight. Relief washed over the crowd as they realized they hadn't been completely abandoned. But the crowd's relief was short-lived. A large man with reddish hair pushed his way forward, declaring he was Sun Debiao from Sun Group. He offered 1 billion in exchange for the insulated suits, demanding to leave immediately. The man in the helmet, seemingly in charge, refused. He stated that academician Lu Jinghua was a crucial geological expert, and couldn't be delayed. He then ordered Gao Chang to seize the insulated suits by force. Just then, a woman with light pink hair, identified as Jiang Shaoqian, interrupted, desperately calling out to the soldier. She warned him about a murderer living upstairs. The crowd chimed in, confirming that the murderer had a gun and had already killed several people. They insisted that the soldier not let the killer go free and demanded he make a decision. The helmeted soldier declared he would stay behind. He told Xiaofeng that this was a special situation and that he had discretion to handle it. He ordered them to take the insulated suits and said he would contact them after. The soldier, now without his helmet and insulated suit, was revealed to be Su Qin. He prepared to see who was really causing the commotion. Jiang Shaoqian plotted that once Su Qin was shot dead, she could stay in the room and wait for rescue. Su Qin sat in a chair, gun in hand, waiting for his enemies to arrive. Su Qin noticed something was off. He spotted a camera hidden inside a plant pot. He realized it was a trap. Damn! He shouted as he aimed his weapon at the door. Su Qin kicked away a tear gas grenade that had been thrown at him. The tear gas filled the room. Su Qin coughed violently. This sound, it's tear gas. Coughing violently, Su Qin knew the situation was bad. He decided to retreat quickly. His eyes stinging, he could barely see where he was. It felt cool. A man with dark hair identified himself as Lu Xiaofeng, deputy captain of the special forces. He told Su Qin that now that he was awake, they needed to talk. Su Qin was confused. Where was the air conditioning and the ice cubes coming from? He demanded to know who Lu Xiaofeng was and how he had gotten his gun and flash grenades. Su Qin explained that he was just a recent graduate who picked up the gun and other equipment during a trip to the Middle East. He asked if the government had set up rescue points for citizens to go to the next morning. Lu Xiaofeng was shocked and asked how he knew about that. Su Qin knew about it just like in his previous life. He warned that even though the temperature would drop significantly in the early morning, staying exposed to the moonlight for more than 10 minutes could still lead to fainting, and many people would die on the way to the rescue. Lu Xiaofeng admitted there was no other way. Although they had established safe zones, modifying rescue vehicles was difficult, and many people couldn't hold on any longer. He explained that they had no choice but to let residents go to the rescue points on their own the next morning, adding that thick blankets and heavy coats could also help isolate the temperature, increasing the survival rate as long as they didn't fall down. The man with dark hair looked back at Su Qin, surprised by his agreement. He begged Su Qin to let him tell the others about using thick blankets before he killed him. He promised to use the walkie-talkie and swore he wouldn't call for backup. Su Qin seemed hesitant, but then said he respected what the man was doing and wouldn't kill him this time. However, he wouldn't tolerate repeated provocations. He asked if the man wasn't afraid that he'd call for backup to deal with him once he left. The man with dark hair told Su Qin to look up and see what was there, a surveillance turret with facial recognition cameras and machine guns, asking where he got something like that. The man with dark hair explained that he acquired the turret from the Middle East and that it would activate, killing everyone in the room except him. However, he figured Su Qin didn't have time to deal with him either. A shirtless man listened intently, trying to understand. He was surprised that the soldier had left, and only mentioned the blanket, without saying anything about what happened upstairs. Two soldiers in hazmat suits stood outside next to a large vehicle. One of them pointed out that the soldiers' guns had been confiscated, wondering if Su Qin was really that powerful, and if even a soldier couldn't handle him. Frustration etched itself onto the man's face as he cursed under his breath. The large man roared in fury, demanding to know why his subordinates hadn't acted. He dismissed the others as useless idiots. The man with long hair then spoke, questioning how long they would tolerate Su Qin. He pointed out that the authorities had begun rescue operations, and that they still needed to leverage Su Qin's connections. Gao Chang, standing in the shadows, wondered if the large man still dreamed of restoring order in such chaotic times. The man with curly hair wanted to kill the little punk, but the large man stopped him, telling him to hold on. The tattooed man looked down at Su Qin, demanding to know why he had come downstairs. Su Qin stood defiantly, holding a tray filled with ice. He declared he was there to make a deal with Boss Gao. The shirtless man with curly hair went wild at the sight of the ice. He yelled about killing Su Qin and taking everything he had. Su Qin didn't hesitate. He leveled his rifle at the man. Man with the goatee chuckled, telling Suchin not to mind the outburst. He wanted to talk about the deal. He popped an ice cube into his mouth, declaring it awesome. The shirtless man with curly hair held the ice to his face, savoring the coolness. He admitted that after 3 days stuck in this place, this was the first time he felt so good, wondering what was in the kid's room. Meanwhile, the man with the goatee plotted. He suggested agreeing to Suchin's demands first, then finding an opportunity to kill him, so they could take the room for themselves. Suddenly, the shirtless man with curly hair yelled at Gao Chang, accusing him of hiding ice cubes. Just then, Suchin, with a swift kick, sent the shirtless man flying. The shirtless man with curly hair, groaning in pain, was warned that next time, he'd better bring out the good stuff voluntarily, or he'd be dead meat. Suchin's foot slammed into his face, silencing him. Suchin's eyes glowed with menacing intent. The shirtless man with curly hair sucked on the ice, declaring how awesome it was. He lamented that they had run out of instant noodles, and without rescue, they'd starve to death. The shirtless man with curly hair continued to suck on the ice. Just then, a voice echoed, "Oh, isn't this Duanya? Despite the heat, you still refuse to take off your clothes. Quite modest of you." Duanya, with her strong pink hair, sat with her arms crossed, a clear look of displeasure on her face. Suddenly, a hand grabbed Duanya's wrist. "But I like playing with someone like you. I'm in the mood now, so come with me." Duanya's face contorted in anger as she tried to pull away. "You bastard! Don't touch me!" The man sneered, threatening to have his way with her right there and then, promising everyone else could have a taste later. Duanya, with her strong pink hair, looked both shocked and furious at his disgusting threat. He continued to taunt her, noting she was soaked and feeling hot, then offered to do her a favor and take it all off. Duanya glared at him, clutching at her torn shirt in anger. Panic erupted as someone screamed that someone had been killed. The tattooed man declared that Suchin was right, it was already chaos, so they might as well die along with it. He announced that the place was now under his command. He gave everyone a clear ultimatum, either go to the rescue point or die there. Suchin watched the chaos unfold from a balcony, a grim expression on his face. Meanwhile, Duanya looked on, sweat beading on her forehead as the situation spiraled out of control. Suchin mused to himself that his words seemed to have had the desired effect. He wondered if accelerating the process would be beneficial, since the tattooed man was the boss in his past life. He leaned against the railing, lost in thought. The tattooed man glanced up, wondering if his opportunity would come sooner than expected. An unknown man begged for the opportunity, calling out to the strong brother. 2 women cowered on the floor, their faces etched with fear as they reached out with trembling hands. Suchin, still disguised, lifted the bucket from his head, sweat pouring down his face. He extended his hand, declaring that if they wanted ice water, they'd do whatever he wanted. The 2 women reached for the bucket as it was tossed into the air. One of the women, with light pink hair, argued that they should be going to the rescue point. She insisted that in this doomsday, they needed to rely on themselves, and the rescue point was a kilometer away, with no guarantee they'd even make it there alive. The woman with light pink hair, shivering under the blanket, declared that when they reached the rescue point, she was going to eat meat and drink cola. Suddenly, a man with long curly hair confronted them, demanding to know what they were doing. He reminded them that Big Brother had given them ice water, and now they wanted to leave. He reached for the woman with light pink hair, tearing at her blanket, and insisted she hang out with him for a while. Meanwhile, Suchin, still disguised and wrapped in a blanket, stood in the street, seething that Gao Chan had taken control of the supplies, leaving them without water or food. The man, drenched in sweat, knew staying in the hotel was a death sentence, but the rescue point offered a glimmer of hope. But stepping outside felt like walking into an oven, the heat far more intense than they had anticipated. Even with makeshift boards tied to their shoes, the scorching heat from the ground was unbearable. Each step was a painful reminder of the extreme conditions they were enduring. The man screamed as the heat intensified. Black liquid poured from his mouth as he writhed in agony, the sheet doing little to protect him. He begged for help, knowing full well that in this desperate situation, no one had the luxury to care about another's survival, not even family. The man reached out a bloodied hand, his cries for help fading into the oppressive heat. In the apocalypse, survival is the only priority. The 2 men lay motionless on the floor, their bodies radiating intense heat. The heat was unbearable. He reflected on his past life, remembering the rescue point. He lamented how no one had reminded him to bring a blanket, and how many lives were lost on that short kilometer. Suchin leaned against the balcony, contemplating his next move. Suddenly, a voice called out to him. Jiang Shaoqian and the other woman suggested they go to a room to have some fun. The man with long black hair laughed, asking if they were afraid of ghosts. Suddenly, the glass shattered as a demonic red hand burst through. 2 figures stood in the doorway, their eyes glowing red with malevolent intent. One of them pointed, shouting, "What's that?" Panic filled the room as someone screamed, "Zombies! It's zombies!" As the zombies crashed the party, One of the men nervously asked if they would turn into zombies if bitten. The tattooed man responded aggressively, telling him to go find out himself. The zombie grabbed him, and the man screamed about the intense heat. The tattooed man noted the victim's extremely high body temperature. The armored figure advanced. The man with black hair swung his sword, yelling for everyone to move aside. Before him stood a group of men, their bodies burning with an inner fire. The man with black hair looked at the armored figure with disbelief. This guy wants to deal with those things? The man with short brown hair grinned, laying out his strategy. Then let him kill them, and then we'll kill him. He clarified that corpses exposed to sunlight in the apocalypse would mutate, but they weren't zombies and wouldn't spread any virus. Suchin stood his ground, unfazed by the creatures surrounding him. He explained that the creatures were more like the drought demons described in the classic of mountains and seas, so he referred to them as such. Suchin stood ready, facing the two massive drought demons looming over him. He realized that these drought demons actually retained some memories or attachments from their previous lives. In his previous life, Gao Chang likely killed one of these people, causing him to hold on to the desire for revenge and become the first drought demon. Su Chen knew he had to be cautious, as these creatures were driven by lingering grudges. The drought demon roared, explaining that he was once Wang Dehai, killed by Gao Chang. The drought demon lunged, ready to attack. Su Chen realized this was Gao Chang's chance. Su Chen raised his weapon, ready to strike down the drought demon. The drought demon's eyes burned with rage. The narrator explained that this was the crystal nucleus that could bring about a superhuman physique. Su Chen stared intently at the crystal nucleus floating before him. But the drought demon declared that the crystal nucleus now belonged to him. The drought demon declared that the crystal nucleus belonged to him, but Su Chen wasn't about to give up. The rest is up to you guys, he shouted, leaping into the fray. Su Chen made his escape, leaving the others to deal with the demon. You guys have fun. Damn it! The tattooed man grabbed one of the fallen fighters by the neck, demanding that he get up. You useless trash! Get up! The drought demon unleashed a furious assault, his fists flying with savage force. All the man could do was scream. The tattooed man's underlings charged forward, eager to prove themselves. Damn it! Grab the weapon! Kill him! The drought demon, however, was far from defeated. He unleashed a devastating attack on the closest fighter. In this apocalyptic world, crystal nuclei were incredibly rare, found in the skulls of drought demons and mutant beasts. Perhaps not even 1 in 100 possessed one. These nuclei held immense power, a treasure worth fighting for. Su Chen knew that to gain the drought demon's power, he had to consume its crystal nucleus, clean the crystal nucleus thoroughly, then swallow it directly. He followed his own instructions, downing the crystal nucleus. He knew the risks, but the potential reward was too great to ignore. Just by doing that, the body can absorb the energy from the crystal nucleus. Energy coursed through his veins, a burning sensation spreading throughout his body as the nucleus's power began to integrate with his own. The drought demon's power surged through Su Chen, and he screamed in agony. Energy coursed through him, threatening to tear him apart from the inside. Meanwhile, chaos erupted at the rescue point. Move! Just move! This is our last water source, and now it's all gone, one of the men shouted in anger. Another man grabbed a woman's leg, preventing her escape. You damn woman, trying to run! If you move, I'll chop off your legs. The tattooed man held the woman captive, and she pleaded for her life. She told him that if he didn't provide water, they would all die of thirst. She offered a way to deal with Su Chen if he let her go to the rescue point, promising to speak quickly and warning him that she would die if she tried to trick him. She revealed that Jiang Shaoqian was Su Chen's fiancée, and suggested attacking her at Su Chen's doorstep to lure him into an ambush. The man seemed amused, acknowledging it was a good plan. The woman agreed to cooperate, but demanded food first, specifically meat. The man scoffed, reminding her that the meat in the electric fridge had already spoiled. The tattooed man considered her offer, his expression unreadable. Do you want meat? He looked down at the woman with light pink hair. He turned back, gesturing towards Jiang Shaoqian, who was still being held captive. That's up to you. Jiang Shaoqian's eyes widened in horror as she realized what he was implying. You mean, her flesh? The tattooed man considered her offer, his expression unreadable. Suddenly, a hand appeared, brandishing a knife. Grip tightened, the blade glinting ominously. Jiang Shaoqian, seeing the blade, panicked. What are you planning? What do you mean? Don't come near me. Jiang Shaoqian was restrained by the men as the woman in the red dress towered over her. Qian, Shaoqian, we're sisters. You can't do this. Jiang Shaoqian's face was filled with rage. Don't deceive yourself. Are we really sisters? And besides, Jiang Shaoqian's eyes glowed red with demonic energy. She raised her arm, a knife glinting in her hand. Just now, you even suggested to use me as bait. The man with long black hair ordered her to cook the meat, insisting they needed strength to deal with Su Chen. He warned that without water, they wouldn't last a day and would turn into dry corpses if they didn't obey. The man's expression hardened. He demanded to know where she was and ordered his men to find her. Meanwhile, Our protagonist's eyes began to glow with intense energy. The air crackled with energy. Su Chen's body surged with power. He realized he had a physique-type ability, and it seemed his heat resistance had improved. The red energy intensified around him. Su Chen felt the changes in his body. His muscles and strength had increased. He clenched his fist, feeling the raw power coursing through him. He noticed something on a nearby monitor. Someone else was there. It was Duanya, standing outside an elevator. She thought to herself that downstairs was no longer safe. This was her only hope, and luckily, she still had some leverage. Duanya stood outside the elevator, hoping for rescue. Suddenly, a voice called out, asking if everything was okay. Su Chen appeared, his muscular frame imposing in the narrow space. Duanya stared up at him, completely caught off guard. Huh! She recoiled in shock and stumbled backwards. Ah, scoundrel! Sorry! It was an accident. Su Chen looked at the woman before him. My resources are limited, and we only just met. I can't just take you in because you're pretty, right? He thought back to his previous life, remembering that Duanya was strong-willed and had a cooperative relationship with Gao Chang. He considered subduing her, but the atmosphere felt too awkward. Duanya, determined to prove her worth, declared that she wasn't just a chef but also an outstanding graduate from Southwest Medical University. She had a medical qualification certificate and 3 years of surgical experience. Su Chen acknowledged that her medical skills were enticing, but resources were scarce, and their survival until tomorrow was uncertain. Duanya, desperate to secure her place, promised to do anything as long as she wasn't kicked out of the building. Su Chen chuckled, telling her to consider the place her own home, but quickly corrected himself, realizing he might have spoken too soon. He warned her that her only choice was to behave herself and not have any ulterior motives. Duanya nodded, assuring him that she understood and never doubted his methods and determination. The man's eyes glowed ominously as he issued a disturbing command. Very well, now take off your clothes. Duanya looked up, her face flushed with anxiety, and her clothes already torn. Now, is it time to start? Water, electricity, food, and even the ability to take a shower. No need to worry about the scorching weather or being eaten by others. For those outside, this place is simply heaven for Duanya. Just that Su Chen isn't exactly a saint either. Su Chen told her that next, he'll give her something different to eat. Su Chen sat back on the couch, looking down at Duanya. Duanya looked up at him, startled. She then remembered why she was there. Forget it. Anyway, I considered this before coming up. Su Chen had already taken a photo of her. He claimed he wasn't trying to peek, just preventing her from doing anything improper. Su Chen smirked, taking pictures of her. Duanya, now dressed in a nurse's outfit, asked Su Chen if it wasn't too small. Su Chen insisted it wasn't small at all, that it was absolutely perfect, prompting Duanya to ask if he really thought so. Suddenly, a desperate cry echoed through the building. Help! Su Chen, open the door! Su Chen, come out and save me! The door rattled under a furious assault. The person behind the door threatened to break it down if Su Chen didn't come out soon. Su Chen sighed, recognizing the situation. Here we go again! The people behind the door shouted that they couldn't open it, explaining that the others had already eaten Li Na, and opening the door would mean the same fate for them. Su Chen's eyes narrowed, and he asked if they meant someone had been eaten. Someone warned against breaking down the door, fearing the trouble it would cause if damaged. Just then, Jiang Shaoqian cried out, begging Su Chen to save her from the tattooed men. The door swung open, revealing a group of grotesque men with sinister smiles. Finally coming out? Su Chen emerged, only to be confronted by the tattooed man wielding a makeshift blade. The tattooed man lunged forward, screaming that Su Chen must die. But Su Chen was ready, intercepting the attack and seizing the man's wrist in a powerful grip. Tattooed man's face contorted into a horrifying visage, his eyes glowing red, and his teeth sharpening into fangs. The transformation was complete. He was no longer human. Su Chen watched the grotesque transformation with a cold gaze. The transformed man coughed violently, his body rejecting its new form. The mutated man grinned savagely. It's the end of the world anyway. What does it matter if we eat people as long as we can survive? He licked his lips, thinking of his next meal. Haha, the meat is so delicious. After eating, my body is filled with strength, so Su Chen. Mutated man's mouth opened wide, ready to devour his prey. He lunged forward with terrifying speed. I can't wait to taste your flavor. Jiang Shaoqian, eyes burning with a demonic red glow, lunged at the tattooed man. Just then, a figure launched a flying kick with incredible force. The tattooed man was sent flying backward from the sheer power of the blow. His captors looked on in shock. Jiang Shaoqian crashed through a window, falling towards the ground below. Clawing desperately at the edge, she strained to hold on. Jiang Shaoqian, consumed by demonic power, glared upward with murderous intent. Su Chen, I won't let you off so easily. The demonic energy surged within her, fueling her ascent. The heat intensified, becoming almost unbearable. It's so hot. Below, the tattooed man's thugs prepared to strike. Damn it! Let's attack him together. They launched themselves at Suchin. They knew they couldn't give him a chance to draw his gun. Suchin smirked, confident in his abilities. He wondered if he even needed to waste bullets on these guys. Suddenly, the tattooed man transformed, his eyes glowing red. Young man, don't underestimate me too much. But the tattooed man lunged at Suchin with incredible speed. Suchin barely had time to react, raising his gun to meet the attack. The tattooed man declared that Suchin couldn't even hit him while on guard. Grinned, revealing sharp teeth. Suchin, confident in his strength, asked if the tattooed man was done talking. The tattooed man could only respond with a confused huh? Suchin didn't wait for an answer. He declared that the tattooed man should die. With incredible speed, Suchin lunged forward. Suchin's attack landed with explosive force. The tattooed man raised his knife to defend himself, but Suchin was too fast. Suchin slammed him into the ground with overwhelming power. The tattooed man screamed in agony. The tattooed man's face contorted in fury, his eyes burning with a menacing red glow. Suchin tightened his grip, cutting off the tattooed man's air supply. The final surge of strength, Suchin sent the tattooed man crashing through a nearby window. As Duanya watched from the background, a strange power began to awaken within Suchin, his eyes glowing with an ominous purple light. Jiang Xiaoqian's eyes glowed red, and a terrifying energy erupted from her body. She lunged forward, a red aura blazing around her. Suchin looked up, recognizing the energy. He muttered her name, concern etched on his face. Jiang Xiaoyan? The tattooed man noted how quickly Jiang Xiaoqian had mutated, realizing her attachment was quite deep. He struggled against Jiang Xiaoqian's grip, but she was relentless. She declared that if he wouldn't disappear, she'd just have to kill him again. Suddenly, Suchin appeared, his eyes glowing with the same ominous red light. Jiang Xiaoqian unleashed a monstrous roar, her body twisting into a grotesque parody of its former self. The room buzzed with excitement. Suchin was amazing, having single-handedly taken down the whole gang of Gao Chang. Duanya, still in her nurse's uniform, looked on with wide eyes. The atmosphere shifted as one of the onlookers commented about the dangerous feeling radiating from the monster. Jiang Xiuqian's monstrous form was now fully revealed, complete with horns and a long, reptilian tail. Anya knew she had to find a way to help him. If she wanted to stay by Suchin's side, she couldn't become a burden to him. She was determined to find a way to be useful. Suddenly, she called out to Suchin. She had an idea, and needed to speak with him. Suchin glanced back. Duanya declared she wanted to help him defeat the monster. Suchin didn't think she could be of much use. He told her that at best, she wouldn't be scared and hide. He thought she would only distract him. Duanya tilted her head, wondering why he would say that. The transformed Jiang Xiaoqian snarled menacingly, lunged forward, its grotesque form a blur of motion. Suchin braced himself against the creature's attack. He narrowly dodged the monster's savage strike. Duanya looked on in shock. Suchin activated his superpower, Berserker mode. The transformed Jiang Xiaoqian lunged at him with savage intent. A terrifying roar echoed through the room. The monstrous Jiang Xiaoqian lunged, her mutated form a grotesque parody of the woman he knew. Suchin, eyes blazing with purple energy, prepared to meet her savage attack head-on. The mutated Jiang Xiaoqian roared, her monstrous face contorted with rage. Her gaping maw, lined with rows of razor-sharp teeth, lunged forward, intent on tearing him apart. The mutated Jiang Xiaoqian lunged, her fangs bared in a grotesque snarl. Suchin taunted her. Can't bite? Are those fangs just for show? Energy surged through Suchin as he gripped Jiang Xiaoqian's face. It's my turn now. Flames erupted around his hands, ready to unleash his power. Suchin flipped Jiang Xiaoqian upside down, her mutated form writhing in his grip. He unleashed a fiery kick. Suchin brought his foot down on her head with brutal force. He stood triumphantly over Jiang Xiaoqian, her monstrous form a stark contrast to her former self. With no mercy, he pulled her arms. Her arms shot upwards. She plummeted back down to earth, crashing into the ground with devastating force. Jiang Xiaoqian's face contorted into a horrifying visage, her eyes burning with a demonic red light. Suchin held Jiang Xiaoqian aloft, energy crackling around them. He revealed his true intentions. I had planned to let you suffer more in the apocalypse, slowly tortured to death. But now I have to kill you earlier. Suchin's body radiated power. She realized something was amiss. With her tentacle, she grabbed the man lying on the ground. The mouth opened wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Jiang Xiaoqian's body continued to contort as she devoured the man. Her mouth was wide open as she finished eating the guy. Suddenly, her lost arm started to grow from scratch. Jiang Xiaoqian unleashed a monstrous roar, her transformation reaching its terrifying climax. The monstrous face snarled, a horrifying visage of razor-sharp teeth and glowing red eyes. Suchin watched in disbelief. Oh, you can regenerate lost limbs? He wondered. Duanya stared at the writhing tentacles, her eyes wide with disbelief. How is that possible? She wondered. She turned to Suchin, a mixture of awe and concern on her face. That's great. Great. The monstrous figure clenched his fist, a sinister grin spreading across his face. If you can regenerate, then it means you're not so easy to kill after all. The figure's voice dripped with malice. It also means I can tear you apart many times over. Su Chen's eyes glowed with an ominous red light. Jiang Shaoqian, now a grotesque monster, stood amidst a swirling vortex of energy. He grabbed her shoulder with barely any effort. Su Chen watched the monster below him. Let me see just how many times your body can regenerate, he thought. Su Chen stared down at the monstrous Jiang Shaoqian, his eyes burning with red energy. He grabbed her arm, energy crackling around them. Let's start with the left hand, he announced. He moved with blinding speed. Next is the right hand, he declared. Su Chen's expression was grim as he continued his assault. Su Chen continued his relentless assault, energy crackling around him and Jiang Shaoqian. He declared his next target. Next are the tail and both legs. With a swift motion, he cut off Jiang Shaoqian's tail. Su Chen stood victorious, his foot planted firmly on her back. Her arms continued to heal. Jiang Shaoqian gasped, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. Su Chen's eyes glowed with an eerie light as he declared that the second round would begin shortly. He raised his arms, ready to continue the fight, while Duanya watched in disbelief. Jiang Shaoqian's monstrous form gasped, as if it was shocked. Arms and legs flew through the air as the battle continued into the fourth and fifth rounds. By the eighth round, Su Chen realized that not just limbs, but even eyes and the tongue could regenerate. By the 16th round, even internal organs could regenerate. It seemed like everything except the head could regenerate. Su Chen wondered why Jiang Shaoqian couldn't regenerate after 21 times. He had been planning to gouge out her eyes, but decided against it, stating he wasn't a devil. Jiang Shaoqian, now crying, gasped out a single word for. Her expression was twisted in pain as she struggled to speak. What reason? Su Chen glared down at her, his eyes glowing with an ominous red light. You ask why? He remembered what she had done to him in his past life. Jiang Shaoqian's monstrous head was about to be crushed underfoot. He finished her and finally got his revenge. Duanya, dressed as a nurse, watched him with concern. Su Chen, are you okay? She asked. His gaze hardened, the red glow intensifying. Are you ready? Duanya, still dressed as a nurse, stared at him, a bead of sweat trickling down her cheek. Ready? For what? She asked. Su Chen's voice echoed in her mind. I was so heroic just now. Shouldn't you be ready to reward me? He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, his eyes glowing. Duanya blushed. Reward? Here, in this place? The sign above the engineering university station declared it a rescue point, and the outside temperature seemed to be normalizing. Could it be that the apocalypse was coming to an end? Just then, a voice called out, Captain. A man with short brown hair stood holding a rifle, looking concerned. The man with short brown hair reported that a large group was approaching the rescue point. The woman with short, light hair narrowed her eyes, trying to make out who they were. A massive horde of zombies shambled toward the station, their eyes burning with malevolent red light. Her eyes widened in horror as she recognized the approaching figures. Zombie horde. A voice commanded everyone to evacuate the civilians from the rescue point, intending to hold off the horde. Someone protested, but their words were lost in the roar of the approaching zombie horde. The voice repeated, making it clear that this was an order. The sound of the horde grew louder as they closed in. As the horde descended, someone cried out, begging their captain not to die. The captain ordered them to shut their mouth and get out of there. Then, a voice declared that they would experience the power of the berserker. Su Chen's eyes glowed with purple energy as he prepared to unleash his full power. Someone asked how many times this was happening. Su Chen stood, his body crackling with energy. A voice echoed, declaring that the extreme heatwave was over, and they had to go out for a bit, promising unforgettable memories. Duanya looked up at him with concern. Can't I come with you? She asked. Su Chen knew that the people around him had to meet two conditions. They must be valuable, and they must absolutely obey his orders. Under the night sky, he considered his situation. It seemed that Duanya had completely submitted to him. He knew he had to hurry back before the seawater surged in. Su Chen knew that many zombies in his previous life, driven by the obsession to reach the rescue point, eventually formed a tidal wave attacking the rescue point. Many civilians and soldiers died in that tidal wave attack, and a large amount of military weapons were scattered, and from the chaos, factions began to rise, carving out their own territories. This is how various factions formed. Suddenly, an urgent demand cuts through the air. Stop the car for me. A group of armed men, shirtless and menacing, appeared in the street. Su Chen, inside the car, was taken aback by the sudden interruption. Are you crazy? How dare you order to stop the car and even rob it at this time? He wasn't about to be a victim. Su Chen stepped out of the vehicle, ready to confront the threat head-on. One of the shirtless men cursed. Then, they were sent flying as the car accelerated. The man lay on the ground, defeated. Su Chen realized that, just like in his previous life, the walls would crack due to the scorching sun, and combined with the zombie wave, It would eventually lead to the collapse of the subway station. The number of people who died underground was probably in the thousands. Suchin stood atop the vehicle, surveying the devastated landscape. Below the surface, the ruins of the old world lay in silent darkness. Zombies below were all attracted by the roar of the cars. He realized that not all zombies had crystals in their heads, and cracking each skull open one by one was far too time-consuming. He decided to check out the situation at the college first. Suchin drove towards the college. It was his first time back at the engineering university since graduation. They arrived at the research institute. Suchin approached the college, ready for whatever awaited him. The entrance was a scene of fiery devastation. Suchin stepped through the doorway, ready to face whatever was on the other side. Suddenly, a man with glowing red eyes appeared, his face contorted in rage. "Hold it right there." The man with red eyes wasn't alone. 2 more men, similarly afflicted, stood guard, blocking his path. "Kid, you're entering our territory, so you better hand over your backpack." Suchin tried to negotiate. "Hey guys, could you help me out and let me pass? I've got some braised chicken legs here." The mention of food was enough to distract them. "Chicken legs? You've got chicken legs at a time like this? Throw them over. Hurry up and toss those chicken legs over here." Suchin smirked, sensing an opportunity. Suchin tossed the braised chicken leg into the air. The chicken leg landed near the leader, who was seated on the couch. The 2 guards, eyes glowing red, were straining against their restraints, desperate for the food. Guards lunged forward, scrambling over each other to reach the chicken leg. "This is mine! Mine! Get out of the way!" The men's faces were contorted in a frenzy as they fought over the single piece of food. Suchin manipulated the chicken leg with a thin string. He looked down at the men with disdain. "Sorry, but you guys aren't worthy of eating these chicken legs." Suchin dangled the chicken leg tauntingly. The leader's face contorted with rage. "You jerk, you dare to mess with us! Get him!" Suchin aimed his gun with deadly focus. As he ascended the staircase, Suchin wondered aloud if his actions in this life had inadvertently saved more people, leading to more confrontations with idiots. The aftermath of the fight revealed 3 unconscious men sprawled on the floor. Suchin continued down the hallway, passing a sign that read Laboratory Department of Reptiles and Snakes. The lock snapped open. It seemed like nobody had entered this lab for a while. Suchin ventured further inside. Many snakes had died, and the air was filled with the smell of decay. He had found his objective. Meanwhile, 3 armed men approached the reptile lab, weapons raised. "I know you're hiding in there," one of them shouted. He warned that it was a critical time, and he couldn't afford to be disturbed. Suchin emerged from the lab to face the intruders. He looked at them, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. One of the armed men yelled, assuming a woman was hiding inside. Suddenly, a woman leaped into action. The armed men watched in surprise as she launched herself at them. With a powerful kick, she struck the man holding the gun. Her kick sent the armed man flying. She landed on top of him, pinning him to the ground as another man screamed, "You slut!" She didn't hesitate, kicking another attacker with brutal force. She grabbed the last man, choking him with cold fury. The woman with short gray hair heard the man's condescending remark, "Not bad moves." Just then, the man with black hair twisted her arm with incredible speed. He looked down at her, surprised by his own actions. "Hey!" The woman with short gray hair looked up at him, equally confused. "Why?" The woman with short gray hair had Suchin pinned, asking him if he thought she couldn't twist. But Suchin didn't answer. Instead, he was trying to figure out what she was doing. Just then, a gun was pointed at Suchin as the woman demanded to know who he was and what was going on. The woman with short gray hair identified herself as Bite Sung, the captain of the Azure Tiger Special Operations Team, and ordered him to behave himself and let her go. Bite Sung, the woman with short gray hair, asked Suchin if he knew someone named Lu Xiaofeng from the Special Forces team. She pressed him, wanting to know if he knew Xiaofeng. Suchin didn't answer, but Bite Sung remembered that he once saved Xiaofeng's life. Meanwhile, someone was cooking a large piece of meat in a pan. Person cooking explained that a group of fugitives had taken over the school, used students as hostages, and stolen their weapons. The man with short dark hair explained that when the zombie horde attacked the rescue point, Xiaofeng had led the civilians to leave first. He didn't expect that some escaped prisoners had infiltrated among the normal civilians. The man eating the large piece of meat declared that as long as they had weapons in hand, these people were nothing to fear. An unknown person demanded to be untied. The unknown person agreed, but only if the other party promised not to clamp his head with their legs like before. The person demanded to eat steak too, at the Experiment Research Center, but it seemed like he couldn't untie it. The red rope lay discarded on the floor. The person with the rifle stated they had their own things to deal with, so they couldn't help too much. They could only provide some firepower support. Suchin, turning his back, told them to hurry up and leave, not to bother him. The woman with short silver hair explained that she planned to sneak attack their stronghold. Only by retrieving the looted goods could the people trapped in the college survive. She added that this might be the only time they meet. The woman with short silver hair asked if he needed supplies. She paused, and then said to wait a moment. The man with black hair reached into his backpack. The man with black hair explained that Xiaofeng was his brother, so he would help. Meanwhile, inside the college, the scarred man sat on a makeshift throne, flanked by armed guards and 2 women in revealing outfits. He asked how things were progressing. The man in the vest reported that the others were waiting outside, eager to attack the students in the dorm. The scarred man grinned, ordering them to send the uncooperative ones to the front. If anyone was going to die, it would be them. The scarred man smirked, confident in his control. Suddenly, the door exploded inward, and a figure stood in the doorway. Suchin announced his presence, apologizing for interrupting their meeting. The scarred man demanded to know who he was and how he had broken in, pointing out that more than 20 people were guarding outside. Suchin stood confidently in the doorway, but even he was momentarily taken aback. How did I get in? Didn't wait for an answer, his eyes scanning the room. Suchin stood calmly with his hands in his pockets, unfazed by the tense atmosphere. He pointed a finger directly at the scarred man, his expression hardening. Suddenly, his finger glowed with purple energy as he unleashed a powerful blast. The purple blast struck with devastating force. The onlookers were stunned by what they had just witnessed. What happened? One of them asked, his voice trembling. Another man stammered in disbelief. He just pointed at him, and then he died? The air crackled with purple energy as Suchin issued a chilling warning. Don't move or you'll die. Suchin coolly gave a thumbs up, confident in his next move. One of the thugs shouted at him, enraged by his arrogance. You punk! Quit fooling around! Suddenly, a voice echoed in his mind, confirming the enemy's demise. Target has been eliminated, the voice continued, warning him about the remaining enemies. But there are still many thugs in the room. You're in a very dangerous situation right now. Outside, the building stood silent. A woman with short white hair looked up at him, concerned. She still insisted that his plan to lure the enemy alone was too risky. Suchin laid out his strategy. She would take the sniper rifle to the roof of the opposite building. He would lure the enemy, and then she would shoot whoever he pointed out. The woman with short white hair spoke into her headset, still second-guessing Suchin's plan. Through the scope, the curtains inside the reptile lab window remained still. Suddenly, the curtains were drawn shut. She yelled into the headset, demanding to know what was happening on Suchin's end. A voice crackled over the headset, taunting her. It seemed her little sniping setup wouldn't be enough. As expected, Suchin had been spotted. The woman with short white hair yelled into the headset, telling Suchin to stall for time, promising to rescue him right away. She immediately sprang into action, leaping down the stairwell. She furiously ordered someone to kill Suchin. The woman with short white hair dove headfirst into the fray, ready to unleash hell. Gun in hand, she screamed that she was there to avenge Suchin. A voice echoed back, declaring that she was too late. Suchin stood calmly in a room of horrors, his hand clasped around the throat of a muscular man. Suchin stood amidst the carnage, his expression grim as he realized the room was empty. There are no supplies here, the man gasped, declaring that he couldn't be killed and that his backers would avenge him. He spat that they'd be joining Suchin soon enough. Suchin responded that he was just doing exercise and that the results were visible. He figured the victims were probably starving and weak already. He wondered what would happen to the students now that the supplies were gone. Suchin said that if needed, he'd share some of the supplies he just collected, depending on how they behaved. He announced that they were heading to the girls' dormitory because Xiao Yu and other students were gathered there. Suddenly, the scene shifted to a room filled with hanging corpses, their faces obscured by shadow. Outside, the man with the mask cursed that the woman had run off again, causing trouble. He wondered if she was even still alive, but then they found her. The captain is still alive. What a pity, he thought, ordering his men to get her down. The woman hung there, taunting him. She asked if he had found the feeling he was looking for after pretending to be a prisoner for days. She added that she needed his comfort. The masked man simply responded, "Is that so?" The woman with short black hair writhed in pain, asking how he was feeling. She felt much better, and asked if he had seen everything, then demanded to know who took her supplies. She called the culprit a devil, and told the masked man to tell her the name so she could make him pay. The woman stared intensely as she heard the name, Suchin. The man rushed over to the entrance, calling out to someone named Xiaofeng and asking how he was hurt. Captain Bai was fine and happy to see him back. The man demanded to know what Suchin was doing there. He started to say that Suchin was her brother, but then noticed Xiaofeng's injury. Xiaofeng explained that it was just a scratch, but it was getting worse. He believed it was from the cannibals, whose nails were full of bacteria and viruses. Without medicine, it could be life-threatening, but medicine was a rare resource. Suchin handed over some medicine, enough to treat the wound. The man asked where he had gotten so many medicines. The woman with short white hair stated that Suchin was her brother. Suchin knew that in his previous life, there was a man in the mafia whose combat power was comparable to a humanoid nuclear bomb, known as the God of War. He thought that if that person was Xiaojing, then his investment wouldn't be for nothing. He owed them a favor, But he knew they didn't come here just to deliver medicine. He asked what they wanted. Suchin declared that the Great Flood was coming soon and that they needed to evacuate quickly. He explained that the extreme heat had already caused the glaciers to melt rapidly, resulting in seawater flooding, and that the entire land would be submerged in floodwater. A woman with orange hair scoffed, calling it nonsense. She accused Suchin of wanting to drive them away and monopolize the school's resources. She identified him as Fang Qing, her classmate, a second-generation rich, famous female boxer at the university who liked to create gender divides. A man demanded to see what food the woman with reddish-brown hair had in her bag. He slapped her hard across the face. Stunned, she asked if he dared to hit her. The crowd cheered, saying she deserved it. Apparently, she'd been hogging a dorm all to herself and flaunting her family's wealth. The woman with reddish-brown hair, now sporting a red mark on her cheek, threatened to get her father to kill them all. The woman with short blue hair asked Suchin if he was okay with her finding her dad. She added that the men in the country were beneath her, especially Suchin, and that they couldn't hold a candle to gentlemen from abroad. Just then, a large man with a metal mask grabbed the woman with reddish-brown hair, demanding to know where Suchin was. Meanwhile, the man with black hair told Captain Bai to handle the evacuation process, telling the others to take care. Someone was waiting for the Golden King snake to mutate, hoping to harvest it and obtain hydrokinetic abilities. In the background, a car crashed, and a voice cried out for Suchin to save them. Suchin looked up, recognizing someone. Fang Qing, is that you? He saw a woman with reddish-brown hair suspended by a chain. She cried out for help, claiming to be separating from the Federal Bureau of Evolution. The masked man sneered, asking if she was one of the Sioux Queens daring to snatch their supplies. He'd imagined her as a formidable figure, not someone from the Federal Bureau of Evolution. The masked man confirmed his affiliation and boasted about preparing a gift for the meeting, gesturing towards a nearby container. The masked man sneered, towering above the woman he held hostage. From a container behind them, a horde of zombie-like creatures emerged, their eyes glowing with a sinister red light. So, are you ready to die? He asked.